But it is a great joy to gather this evening, and especially welcome to our mothers who are with us today. At the very end of Mass, we'll have a special blessing for our mothers, so great reason to stay to the very end of Mass. I always like to say that during a homily. So we do honor our mothers today. We thank God for them, for being open to life. So we thank all of you. But as we gather today, we pick up where we left off last Sunday. So last Sunday we heard of Jesus talking about how he was the vine and we are the branches, and hopefully we had a really good homily to explain that to us. But tonight we continue where we left off with the gospel, and we hear now of Jesus talking a lot about love. And hopefully every time we hear of love in the New Testament, we automatically ask ourselves, well, what kind of love is he talking about? In English, unfortunately, all we have is one word, love. And we use it in a lot of ways. We talk about how we love food, we love cars, we love maybe sports. But we also at the same time use the same word to say we love our spouses, we love children, we love parents. And so something's odd about that we use the same word to describe our love for food and for our parents. But in Greek, we had 3 different words in the New Testament to show 3 different kinds of love. Greek is the language of the New Testament, so that's why every time we hear of love in the New Testament, we should ask ourselves, well, what kind of love is the author talking about? So there are 3 kinds. The first was eros, which is a fleshy kind of love, an earthy kind of love. Then there was philia, which is a brotherly kind of love. And then there was a third kind of love, this agape kind of love, which was a selfless and sacrificial kind of love. And it is this third kind of love that Jesus talked about today. In fact, he used it 9 times in a matter of just 9 verses. So I think he's trying to tell us something. If he's using a word a lot, he's trying to convey a message. And so if you do get a chance, go back and read this gospel again. And every time you hear the word love, replace it with that other word, agape. And I think you'll begin to see just how rich this gospel is today. But agape, Jesus today says that he was the one agape'd by the Father, and that he in return agapes each one of us gathered here. And then he goes on to exhort the disciples to remain in that agape, to remain in that love. But he doesn't stop there. Jesus takes it one step further, and he says, I command you to agape one another. He commands it twice there in the gospel. I command you, agape one another. And what does Jesus say will happen if we do this? He says, you will be filled with joy. So today Jesus is telling us very strongly that he wants us to be surrounded by this agape. He wants us to live it. He wants us to breathe it. He wants it to be our very life. We were not made for selfishness. We are made for this agape kind of love. And nothing else will ever truly satisfy us. And that is why if we truly live this kind of love, we will be filled with joy. And who doesn't want that in their life? But yes, this means that if we are meant to agape, that means we've got to agape at home, with spouses, with children. Our home must be a place of agape. Agape at work, around your coworkers, around the water cooler. That's got to be in a place where agape dwells. Yes, even agape there at the soccer game when you're playing against somebody. That is where agape must be. And dare I say, yes, even agape on the highway. That must be a place where agape dwells. But hopefully this all makes us pause for just a moment. And as we reflect on this, we realize, how can I love as God is love? We see the cross before us. We see how much God has loved us and what he has done. How could we ever begin to love as God has loved us? Well, I'm reminded of my favorite saint, Saint Therese, and I think she realized the great depth of this command of God to love. And she realized that she could not do it on her own, that if it was up to her power, she would never be able to agape God in return. And so she prayed, she asked God that God would give her that agape love, so that she could give it in return. She realized that she could not give what she did not have, and so she asked. She asked God in her prayer, please give me this love so that I can, in return, love you for all that you have given us. And this is exactly why we gather here every Sunday. Sunday after Sunday, we gather to learn how to love like we're meant to. We gather to be filled with that love so that we can, in return, love like we're meant to. Jesus' commandment to love one another is truly fundamental in the Christian life. Christians are supposed to stand out by the amount of love that they have for another person. This doesn't mean that we can't correct people if we see people straying from the path. That's love in action too, but we are meant to stand out for how much we love each other. And just imagine what the world would be like if the 2.2 billion Christians in the world united together and truly lived this agape love. The highways would never be the same, the soccer fields would never be the same, the work would never be the same, the homes would never be the same. And so today, we say that God is love, but what would God say about us in return? When we get to the end of our life, what will be said about us? Will it be said that we are love as well? Well, today, we can either follow Jesus' command or we can choose another path. God does allow us to choose today. But if we do choose to love as He has loved us, we will be filled with joy. We will get to change the world for better.